Well, here we are, Thoughts from the Office, Redneck Pride Outdoors. We'll start doing a little mini series, if you will, on wildlife control. And this is one of them, and I want to deal with raccoon control work in months of March and April. And like I've said before, around March 20th, I start to look for sow raccoons to drop their pups. Now, the majority of raccoon pups are going to be born in April, okay? But they can go earlier, like the last part of March, and they can go as late as May and June. It's not uncommon for a May or June birthing time for some of the raccoons. When you look at the raccoon behaviors or habits or whatever, they will breed late. If they're not bred the first time, they can come back into heat, from what I understand. And that's why it's not uncommon for us to find sometimes raccoon pups 2 weeks old in the end of August, September type thing. Doesn't happen often, but it happens enough to where I'm always looking for it. Never ever not looking for it. But what I want to do is just give a mindset, if you will, or a thought process for the end of March and into April. You get calls for raccoons and you're wondering, do we have young in there or not? And it's just easy, human nature wise, to get called in April and say, yeah, we got pups. But that doesn't always mean that you do. Those male raccoons are still living in houses. And, I think one trait that most folks don't understand about raccoons is raccoons, after a year old, are predominant solitary animals. Now, you can find them in buildings and locations where there are a lot of raccoons, but when you see these locations and there's a bunch of raccoons in that location at one time, most of the time you're going to notice that they're segregated, or they're split apart. They're in different portions of the building, and a lot of times you're going to find that they're majority males. Now, again, I'm going to say that with tongue in cheek, because it doesn't happen that often. Most of the time, in my area anyway, most of the time it's going to be a single raccoon here tonight, and tomorrow night it'd be another raccoon, and the next night it'd be another raccoon. They're not necessarily going to be there in the same time, and if they are, it's usually a very big building where they can get away from each other. Now, when you get into April, here's the key that I always work off of when I'm talking to the customers. See, this is where knowing habits and behavior really plays into it, and it actually speeds your job up a little bit. You're not wasting time trying to convince yourself of anything. You've heard me say the saying, how many times you have to see the same thing over and over and over again to believe it without convincing yourself. And one of these things will be this. We all know, habit-wise, behavioral-wise, that the boar raccoon will kill the pups. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, there's a lot of speculation, and I haven't heard any concrete evidence on anything absolute, but one speculation is that if the pups are killed, that the sow will come right back into heat if it's early enough, like March or April. I don't know if that's true or not. I've never read anything documented on that, but that doesn't mean it's not true. All right. The second thing is we know that the boar raccoon will kill the pups because of territory. It's that simple. Territorially, the boar raccoon is going to fight other boar raccoons. They're going to fight other raccoons. That's why when in the trapping season, early in the season, a lot of times when you have a raccoon caught, it's not uncommon to find a dead raccoon in your trap tore up. You're wondering what the heck happened. And here a boar raccoon came across another raccoon that was caught and literally killed it gruesomely. So going back to the boar raccoon will kill the pups. That's key number one, and that's something to always remember. So when we're looking at a house, we come up to a house. It's April 1st, April 3rd, April 5th, 10th, whatever. The end of March. We walk up to the corners, and anybody who's worth their weight in gold or worth their weight in salt in the wildlife control field knows that the raccoon will use the downspouts and corners more than they'll use anything else. Yes, they use trees, but they love the corners. All right, so when you come up to a house and the corner is just black with grease and tracks, and you're looking at the tracks, and you can visually see different size tracks. It's just greased up, totally greased up, and it's April, and you say to the customer, "What are you hearing?" And they're saying, "Yeah, I hear it every night, and it's walking around a lot." Well, that could definitely be a female sow, because she's going to be there every night. So you just can't stop at that question. You got to present it again. You got to say, is there any one spot that you hear that raccoon more than anything else? Because that's the key right there. A sow, a female raccoon with pups, is going to be where all the time, or more times than not. That's right, with her pups. So that's where you're going to have the customers going to make that observation. Yeah, it seems to be a lot of time there, day and night. Okay, we're always hearing it there. That's where a flag should go up. All right, could have a sow with pups. The next question you would ask, when you're talking to them, I hear it every night. You see all the black on it. That tells you what? It's a communal den. There's going to be a lot of raccoons there, and you go out and you set your trap up, and you catch. The first raccoon you catch is a male. The second raccoon you catch is a male. The third raccoon you catch is a male. The corners are black. They're hearing noises every night. Now here's where you gotta, put your thinking cap on. Because you've caught 2-3 males, the corners are black. That's telling you there's a lot of raccoons. Catching the males tells you you have a lot of raccoons at that spot. Is the female raccoon willing to have her young in a location where there's a lot of male raccoons? The answer is probably no. Not absolute, but it's probably no. The probability of no, coupled with they don't hear the raccoon in any one spot, they hear it walking around, and they can't tell you that it's there all night long because they fall asleep. Now think about this for a second. When your customers woke up or waking up or angry or perturbed enough to call you because the raccoon is walking above their ceiling, making noises, they know when the raccoon is there for the most part. Now, where they won't know the raccoon is there is if they're not spending time in that room or in that area. Granted. But when that raccoon wakes them up in the middle of the night, they hear it walking around and they go back to sleep, and they say to you, well, I don't know if I heard it anymore or not because I went to sleep. The reality factor there is that raccoon probably wasn't staying there. That raccoon was probably going around inside the house checking things out, and that raccoon was probably a male or a female that's barren or a female that hasn't dropped her young yet. So you can see where I'm throwing a lot of things at you to think about as we're talking to our customers and we're making the job. Now, how does this help you as a wildlife control person in speeding the job up? The faster I can make a case, if you will, and put the parts of the puzzle together, the faster I can say to myself, this is the method I'm going to use, or this is what I'm going to do. For example, I've got a job right now that I've caught 3 males. They're hearing the noise every night, but they can't isolate the noise to any one spot. It's just walking around. Okay? My initial feeling now is to tape up the hole. Okay? Tape up the hole and put a little bit of eviction on the back of that tape. If it's males, it's not going to bother them. I'm going to see the tape ripped off. I'm going to put the tape back up. See the tape ripped off again. You follow what I'm saying? It's drawing conclusions based on what your customer tells you and what you're seeing. Now, if that's a female and you rip the tape off, and she rips the tape off, your customer will probably say to you, I'm not hearing as much. Even though she may be there and rip the tape off 2 or 3 days, because it may take her 2 or 3 days to get her pups out of there, the customer may say to you, I'm not hearing her as much, or it as much. They'll say the word it. And when that's the case, at that point, I'm pretty certain I got a female, because what I've done is I've made her cautious, number one, so she's quieter. And number 2, she's not there as much because she's moving the pups. And I usually tell them, give it 2-3 days, let me know what you hear. And by the 3rd day, they would usually say, now I'm not hearing anything at all, or just once a night. Boom. All right. So I know I've thrown a lot at you at this point for the raccoons. You know, my nickname early on was the Squirrel Man, but I know raccoons better than I know squirrels. So it's taking what you know year-round on the squirrels, or the raccoons rather, I'm sorry. Year-round on the raccoons. What I know, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, back to November. When I know that raccoon every month of the year, every phase, there's 6 phases that they're going through. When I know those phases, I now can go into a job and usually within the first day know exactly what I've got going on. By the 2nd day and by the 3rd day be absolute. Most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. Now, that's for you all that do the type of wildlife control that I do. There are others who do the wildlife control different ways. I can't answer for their methods. I don't know their methods. I just know mine. You understand what I'm trying to say? All right. Well, hopefully you got a little bit out of it. I'm trying to put a lot of information in a speedy video, which isn't that speedy. But here you go, wildlife control professionals. Something to think about and to see, if it equates or has any value with you. All right. We'll talk to you later. Redneck's Pride Outdoors. See ya.